This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Hi there. Welcome to episode 243 of the CineSnob Podcast. I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafania.
And it's been, like a month since we've done one of these, Cody? It's been
something like that.
It seems like everything, and I don't recall this happening before. It seems like everything this year took August off. There were hardly any new movies, at least, big movies, but
we're entering kind of like the dead zone in the movie, which is like post-summer, Oscar season, where we're in a bit of a dead spot right now. Even though you're talking about August, there were no real blockbusters opening.
I think Bullet Train was the biggest opening.
Yeah, which we talked about.
Yeah, we did. All those weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But it is weird. It seems like there's always been something relatively big to garner like that last bit of attention. Because I think Guardians of the Galaxy opened in August, 7-8 years ago, something like that. Yeah, it's a weird time. Mm-hmm. I mean, then of course there's a new movie on Netflix every week that I saw someone post a tweet about some brand new Queen Latifah Ludacris movie that they had no idea existed, that I would have had no idea existed except for that tweet.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea what that is.
I don't either. But anyway, what we did get this past week, some announcements, like that segue. This announcements for new Disney/Marvel films at the D23 Expo. Cody, I think one of the biggest things to come out of this for me immediately was that they're making a sequel to Inside Out, the Pixar film Inside Out, and that Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling won't be reprising their roles due to money. Did you see this?
I didn't see that part of it. I saw the Inside Out sequel part.
Yeah, and I don't remember specifically what parts they played. They were part of the emotions in the head of the main character, but it's kind of crazy that they're not shelling out money for these actors to come back for a sequel to what was a pretty big hit and what's a really critically lauded film, one that I wasn't terribly fond of. But I think the other big announcement was all the Marvel stuff that's happening. We have a list of the cast of the Thunderbolts, which is one of those things that I think you mentioned that's coming like full circle TV to film. Mm-hmm. With Wyatt Russell playing U.S. agent. That you have Julia Louis-Dreyfus as what is her name? Something Allegra, the Contessa. I don't know exactly what the character is, but she's popped up at the end of Black Widow and in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You also have Florence Pugh as Yelena from Black Widow and also Hawkeye. You have the character Ghost from Ant-Man and Wasp, which I'd forgotten about
that at all.
I'd forgotten about that character.
I saw that in the cast, and I was like, "What is this? Is this from a TV show?" And it said Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm like, no idea. No recollection.
I'd forgotten. I actually liked that movie, and I'd forgotten a lot about it. You also have the Taskmaster from the Black Widow series, and you have David Harbour. Coming back from Black Widow. Sorry, I meant Taskmaster from Black Widow, and then David Harbour from Black Widow, a character which I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest announcement. There's also there was a sneak peek at the Marvels, a movie that bringing together Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and then the Ms. Marvel character from the TV show, which I still haven't finished. What else, Cody? Oh, the first look at the Little Mermaid, the live action Little Mermaid. Did you see that clip?
Yeah, I saw that. I
really hope they're going to give it another pass to actually make it look like she's underwater.
Yeah, I don't know. Give it that Aquaman technology. Didn't the Aquaman actually look pretty good?
Aquaman did. I remember. I don't remember anything about it other than Patrick Wilson just sort of going for it.
I do love that Disney doesn't seem to be deterred by none of these live action movies being any good. They're just turning them away no matter what. Like quality be damned, they're going for it.
I didn't watch Pinocchio, but I haven't heard good things.
I haven't either. Yeah.
There are other ones that I like. Oh, speaking of terrible live action movies, they announced the prequel to The Lion King called Mufasa.
Oh, that's the Barry Jenkins one, right?
Yes, that really. Man, I don't know. I like Barry Jenkins as director, but that was just some lifeless horse shit. The Lion King. Did you ever watch that?
I did not. You're talking about the Favreau?
Lion King.
I never saw it. No.
I watched it on a plane, and it was not enjoyable. But I'm curious if maybe they'll give it a little more life, because at least with the Favreau stuff, with the Jungle Book and the Lion King, it's been focused on being like photorealistic as opposed to actually dynamic and interesting. So I don't know what to expect from the Barry Jenkins. Barry Jenkins as a director, because Moonlight wasn't his last movie. What was his last movie?
No, it was from Beale Street.
Oh yeah. If Beale Street Could Talk.
Beale Street Could Talk. Yeah.
Anyway, another one that's getting a lot of crazy, strange reaction. There's a movie based on the Wishing Star.
Oh yeah.
It's called Wish.
Oh God, they're running out of ideas.
Which is apparently the star in the logo for Disney. And it's also kind of what brings Pinocchio to life. Very, very interesting IP decisions going on here. One of the most, I think, one of the most kind of delightful announcements, and something I hadn't really realized looking back, is they're actually going to restore a lost song to A Muppet Christmas Carol and stream it on Disney Plus. Because apparently, and this was not something I had knowledge of until yesterday when I read the news, that there's this song that was cut out of The Muppet Christmas Carol, like the film version, but it was restored for home video, but has never been released in high definition. So they're bringing that back. All in all, lots of Marvel TV shows and weird IP stuff. The first look at Indiana Jones 5, apparently. And then what else? Another look at Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Just that Matt Shankman will be directing Fantastic Four. No cast announcement or anything. Willow, new footage from Willow for Disney Plus. Lots of IP mining going on at D23, but anything that stood out to you as interesting?
No, I mean, I think the Wish movie, I think, is a little bit baffling. And like, again, Disney knows how to make themselves an easy target with shit like that, which is like who wants that? Who's clamoring for that movie? You know, who's always been like, I wonder the origin of the wishing stuff. Like, who cares?
I am a little disenchanted by. Speaking of disenchanted, that's
another announcement.
I never saw Enchanted. Did you?
No, haven't seen it.
I am disenchanted that Pixar is going back to the well again for Inside Out.
Yeah.
I don't know why they can't leave well enough alone. I mean, I know why they can't leave well enough alone. It's money, but.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been disenchanted with Pixar just in general the last like 5 years or so. I think they've been more like sub-Pixar. Kind of like subpar.
Sub-Pixar?
Sub-Pixar. Oh, that's
a
good punch up.
Thank you.
But yeah, I just, the thing about it is that like it's weird because you get torn between this thing of being like, well, I wish they wouldn't go back to the well for this, but also if they're not going to the well, they're doing some shitty high concept thing that like that's too complicated to understand for its own good, and then it's like some sort of like back to basics original story would really serve them well, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, like Lightyear is the most recent film. I never did watch Turning Red. I heard lots of good things about Turning Red. And then Soul before that.
Luca too.
Oh, Luca was all right. For a Call Me by Your Name light reboot. I don't know. I can't get on board with an Inside Out 2 just because it's like it doesn't feel like one of those things that should have a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not the target audience, I guess, for Pixar. Even though every adult that I know that's mildly into film will be ravished by what happens. But hey, we're only 19 days out from Hocus Pocus 2, so there is that to look forward to.
I know you're looking forward to that.
Man, did we talk about Hocus Pocus before?
I've never seen it, but you have talked about your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, my wife was a fan of the first, and man, we watched it a couple years ago, and it is a bad movie. I'm wondering if they'll do anything to make this sequel any better, but at any rate. Yeah. Anything else before we move on, Cody?
Nope.
All right. You all right over there?
Post COVID, I'm working through it.
Well, good luck with your long COVID over there. So
thank you.
Let's go ahead and move on to reviews.
Here are this week's reviews.
First up, we have Barbarian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who are you?
What? Who are you?
This is 476 Barbary, right?
I don't know. Yeah. I think so.
You don't know?
No. I don't live here. I'm renting this place. It's the middle of the night. I don't have it top of my head, the address.
No, I'm renting this place.
What? Are you sure you have the right place?
Yeah, I booked it like a month ago.
This is unbelievable.
What am I supposed to do?
I don't know. Why don't you come inside and we'll call these idiots.
So this is a horror film from director Zach Kreger, who was a member of the comedy troupe Whitest Kids You Know. Not a comedy troupe whose work I was familiar with whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that. Would you call him like the leader of the troupe, Trevor Moore?
Mm-hmm.
Was he last year? He died.
Yeah, I think it was last year.
It's just a crazy accident in his backyard. But Zach Kreger is the writer director of this film.
They previously did Miss March together.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I remember, kind of in the heyday of those like
raunchy sex comedies.
Yeah, boobs and butts and
Sex
like,
Drive and
yeah. Sex Drive is actually really clever if you ever watch it. But yeah, I don't know that I saw Miss March. Anyway, the premise here, that's what you get here at the beginning, is basically two people get double booked at this Airbnb, and it kind of goes from there into this discovering this mystery about this house. But Cody, tell us about the movie and what you thought of it.
Yeah, so this is a pretty under the radar movie that started gaining like a ton of buzz throughout the week as it started being screened for critics. And, you know, the number one thing that you'll see if you see people talking about it is, you know, don't read anything before you see it. Don't look into anything or something like that. So I'm going to keep it kind of light on spoilers because I kind of do think that that's kind of maybe the best policy here. But yeah, you get this intro premise of like of this girl goes to the this Airbnb and it's booked by another guy and they decide to share the Airbnb, and it's, you know, it's I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that that's a bit of like a misdirection in terms of what ends up happening. But, you know, I think, you know, with the movie, there's not only does it like play its like cards really close to the vest, but this movie unfolds in a way that I think kind of is to its detriment, in that and I think the easiest way to say this without any spoilers is that the narrative sort of like resets itself a couple of times as you're watching it, and so you kind of like get some answers or get closer to something, and then the narrative or the plot or whatever resets. And so I think what happens, in my opinion, is that the movie ends up starting to like, it's kind of like writes it into a corner where now this thing has to be like really significant or really important. The answers have to be like mind-blowing, or like, you know, all of the burden is going to be put on, well, what's actually happening here? And the thing that's happening is just like weird. Like, I mean, it's not really anything beyond just being weird. And you know, I tried to scrape high and low for social commentary here, and I just kind of struggled finding anything with any kind of meat on the bones in terms of, you know, could this be representing something deeper that can like provide more meaning beyond weird? And I struggled with that. And so, you know, what ends up happening is that it becomes like for me, a bit of a frustrating experience, because like, then it's a clear narrative choice to do what they do in terms of resetting everything and providing different you know, perspectives. And I think it's just to this degree to push the mystery out further. And then I just wish the reveal was better. And so for me, it ends up being a little bit underwhelming. I mean, I think that Justin Long's I think Justin Long is really fun in the movie, and I like his performance, and his character is a piece of shit, but I like his.
He gets some great lines.
Yeah, his dedication to it. Also, it has this weird horror movie thing of like characters acting and doing like the most ridiculous, unbelievable shit, especially in the main female protagonist here, like continues to do things that puts herself directly in danger.
See, I disagree with that a little bit.
I mean, at one point she says nope, it's something, and then does it anyway.
True. I feel like, yeah, she's a little more savvy than normal, I think. I get your point, though.
She's savvy, but she continues to have like a connection to something further than herself, I guess, is what I'm like, her own safety, self-interest kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I guess you could call that like a character design, but also, you know, in playing into the sort of craziness of the situation, it's kind of hard to believe. But anyway, you know, I think, again, without giving too much away, you know, the disturbing pieces are certainly disturbing, but you know, I think it just puts way too many of the eggs in this basket of, oh, we're going to hit you with this like big reveal and we're going to make you wait for it. And then when it gets there, for me, it just kind of did not land the way that I was hoping it would as the movie builds it up to be. So I thought this was okay, but nothing special.
Yeah, you know, after seeing the buzz online about it and going in completely cold, having no idea what was even happening, you know, it hits you right away with Bill Skarsgård, who's, you know, if you know anything about horror movies, he's Pennywise from the It films. So immediately you're suspicious, but then the movie kind of circumvents that, subverts what you're expecting to happen. And then, like you said, it resets and drops you in the middle of another narrative, which the only two things the only thing I can connect those two with is, I mean, and this is kind of an old horror movie. It's just like terrible things happening to women. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that it really pays off, though. Like, it feels like, you know, here's this terrible things that are happening to women, right? And here's this character in Justin Long who is clearly a terrible person. A piece of shit. I don't know that he ever really gets or that anybody ever really gets a comeuppance from it. Like, there's just a lot of weird that comes from it, if that's the theme that they're going for. And I feel like it is. And maybe I'm ruined by Jordan Peele and anything else that feels like it has to have some sort of message.
Well, not to interrupt, but I think the design of his character almost makes you feel like it has to have some kind of message behind it, just because of like the circumstances of what his character is going through.
Yeah, like he's introduced the way he's introduced is he's a horrible piece of shit.
Right.
And you want to see him get his comeuppance, and I don't know that it ever happens. And then like the third reset that happens, or the second reset that happens, that kind of leads into the third act, I don't really understand what the point of it is, other than to be sort of vaguely creepy.
Right.
I think the first half of this movie, I don't know, first 30, 45 minutes, however long before you get to that first reset, I think is genuinely like disorienting. Like you have no idea what's going to happen. And then it gets, I think by the time Justin Long's character gets fully drawn into the story, you're kind of clear on what's happening, just in a general sense. And then when you get to the why of it, I just, like you said, I don't think there's any real meat on the bones as to the why.
Right.
I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just, I feel like it's trying to say something and it doesn't quite connect those dots.
Well, no, especially when you start getting into like what's going on with the, well, I guess we'll just say like the antagonist of the movie. I just I don't understand what that's all about. Like, it's messed up, but like, again, is there some sort of metaphor or meaning there, or is it just, again, weird for the sake of being weird? And again, maybe this is I guess what would you call it? User error. And I'm just like not picking up on something here. But because of that, again, like I said, like, I mean, it really makes you wait to figure out what's going on. And I feel like if you're going to do that, it's got to be worth it. Like it really has to be worth it. And I think ultimately that hinges of like what I think of the movie as a whole. I mean, I think, like putting together the pieces of it, I think it's well made. I think there's a lot of really good tension that's going on. I think there's it's shot interestingly. I think the performances are good, but like I said, I think it writes itself into a corner where that payoff has to be really, really good, because you're waiting like over an hour probably to finally put the pieces together.
Yeah. And, it's also got some in the meantime, not terribly edgy stuff, but some stuff that has a little bit of bite to it. Like you have the worst cops in the world at one point in the movie, just terrible, and not like, I mean, well, I wouldn't say worst cops in the world, but most ineffectual cops in the world. You've got some commentary on what Justin Long's character is alleged to and pretty much admits to doing. And then you get the kind of, I think at the beginning, like the real tension of what a real woman would do, put into this situation where she's forced to kind of share this Airbnb with a guy she doesn't know. But then at the end, our antagonist gains some crazy superhuman powers that were previously not hinted at. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't, like you said, the buildup doesn't make the payoff doesn't make the buildup worth it.
Yeah. And
I'm kind of puzzled by the overwhelmingly positive reaction to this movie.
Me too. I don't get it. And it's like effusive praise. People love it.
I know.
People say
yeah.
It's great. People say it's amazing. And it's like, well, I mean, I didn't see it. I mean, again, it's not bad by any means, but also like again, if it's just like weird to be weird, you got to get to that quicker. You got to get to it quicker if it's just going to be weird, and that's going to be it.
And if you're gonna have a message, it's almost got to hit you over the head. Like I can't deal with any more of these horror movies that kind of pitter patter around some big message. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't, like I don't, again, going back to Nope, I don't get what the fuck the message was. Like I don't get it. I don't get what you were, I mean, because clearly this is trying for something. I don't think this is trying as hard as something like Nope was. Yeah. But it's still like, what are we saying here? What's the point here?
And at the same time, the thing with Nope though is that there's stuff in Nope that you can chew on. You know, there's like, you know, there's the spectacle of it. It looks beautiful. It's like you can get caught up in like the entertaining on the surface level. But here again, the thing that I think is a little bit frustrating is that it draws the tension in and then releases it. And so again, if you're doing that, you know, again, it's like, okay, well, if you're gonna like put all this work in to create a tense moment and then leave it, it's a confident movie. I'll say that it's very confidently made, but I think it takes those risks and for me doesn't pay off with anything that's meaningful or significant.
Yeah. What's your grade for Barbarian, Cody?
Well, like I said, the whole thing hinges on does it work as a whole, and I don't think that it does. And so for that reason, I give it a C+. It's a very strong C+, though, because I think, you know, had it been a little bit more clear in its like messaging, I think it could have very easily made it into a recommendable B-, but it just falls a little flat for me.
Yeah, same here. I just don't feel like it ever really completes like the story that it's trying to tell. I feel like there's like these chunks that are mashed together that don't, you know, cohere into something. I don't know. Again, like you said, maybe I'll admit it might be user error. I might not be getting it. But I sat there and I laughed at Justin Long looking up square footage on his computer when he finds this, you know, terrible dungeon in his home. But you know, other than kind of the obvious weirdness, I just don't feel like there's anything else there. Anyway, let's go and move on to our next movie, Clerks 3.
Can't catch my breath, man.
Really? Should I try mouth stuff?
What is this, a Tinder date? Get off of me. Oh, shit.
Mr. Dante! I need an ambulance at the Quick Stop!
Saved my life, man. Wish I had a life worth saving.
What are you talking about?
Sit around and watch the same movies over and over.
I always thought you could have made a cool movie.
You're right. I'm living on borrowed time. No more watching movies. I'm gonna make a movie!
What's the movie gonna be about? It's about him working here. Meta.
Everything in the script is something either me or someone I know said.
I'm not even supposed to be here today. Maybe Jay and Silent Bob could be characters.
Jay and Silent Bob are like C-3PO and R2-D2. They've been here since the first movie, which was the last time they were cool. But they've been with the franchise so long, they still give them cameos and put them on the lunchboxes. Snifty Booches! Please tell me!
So this is, of course, Clerks 3, the latest film from Kevin Smith. Not technically, if you're watching this today on Sunday, not technically in theaters yet, but it's coming. Is it this week, 13th through 18th, I believe?
13th through 18th, it should be showing at least once a day in multiple theaters.
This is kind of this is the model that Kevin Smith's been using, I think, since at least since Yoga Hosers. His last 3 films have been Fathom events where you have to, like, they're not traditional releases. We've talked a lot about Kevin Smith on this show. We didn't talk about Jay and Silent Bob Reboot on this show, did we?
I think we did.
I can't remember doing it.
I'm pretty sure that we did.
Well, I know we talked Yoga Hosers and Tusk, 2 movies that we violently hated.
Yeah.
And Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, I was like, this is fine enough comfort food to watch it was like a winter afternoon, I think I watched it. Anyway, this is his first real big return to Clerks since Clerks 2. The characters have popped up here and there. Obviously, the View Askew-universe since Clerks 2. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot was sort of in that vein. Anyway, we watched this like a month ago.
It's been a while.
And the embargo lifted the other day. But Cody, tell us about Clerks 3 and what you thought of it.
Yeah, so I mean, as you've mentioned, this is important to note because I think both of us are sort of like lapsed Kevin Smith fans where, you know, there was a point in time where I'm sure both of us, I can only speak for me, but I think you would agree that you would consider Kevin Smith, and I consider Kevin Smith one of my favorite filmmakers.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, like those 3 like got me. That, I mean, in no small part like were hugely influential in what I decided to do with my life. Like, I mean, career wise, I mean, I'm not talking like they, you know, not in a personal sense, but in like, hey, I filmmaking looks fun if you can just make it about conversations between people, which I think is, not to interrupt you, sorry, but
No, you're good.
that was a huge strong suit of it. Like, you can just film, like, you can make a movie about people talking about things.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't influential professionally for me, but it was influential in my taste in movies. In that, like, when I watched these in high school, when I first started getting into movies for real, one of the things that I still want out of anything in any movie is good dialogue, a good script, and characters just talking to each other, and that is something that like really stuck with me early on. Seeing, in particular, Chasing Amy, and where that movie, it's just so well written, and so and then the career started to take a turn. And, these last few movies have been like the range of emotions for me watching them is like indifference with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and like visceral anger with Tusk and Yoga Hosers, where like, it was one of those things where with Tusk, it's something where it's like, like it's literally contempt for the audience playing this clip at the end of them laughing about the idea. And it's like, haha, you just watched a movie that we made out of a dumb idea on a podcast. And then Yoga Hosers is just like irredeemable garbage. Just a real terrible
man. I can't remember. I feel like I hated Tusk more because it's got that scene with Michael Parks that I sent to you the other day. Michael Parks and Johnny Depp just having just this terrible like 6-minute scene together, and it's so bad. Yoga Hosers is a worse movie, but I think Tusk made me more angry.
Yeah, that's totally fair, and I think I probably agree with you. And so here we are getting to Clerks 3, and I actually liked Clerks 2 a lot.
I did too.
I saw Clerks 2. That was what, like 2007 or 8?
I think it's 2006.
Oh wow! So yeah, I was still in high school, and I liked it. I think it was a great. It felt like going back to Dante and Randall, and it put them in a new setting and added some characters that were interesting. And it didn't feel like a retread. It felt like something new and different, and it explored friendship as it kind of progressed through time, and feeling like getting stuck and like, I mean, I guess that was kind of like middle aged. I think it was because they were both, I think, in that movie, like in their 40s, right?
No. I mean, they're supposed to be like pushing 50 in this movie. So that Clerks 2, they would have been in their 30s.
Oh, I thought it was like early 40s, but
yeah,
or late 30s, early 40s. Anyway, so it gets back to that universe for the first time, and I think it's one of those things where I just the problem that I have with Kevin Smith, there's a couple of them in these more recent movies. And I think the first one is his audience is shrinking down by design on his end to like just the people who are still around from the first go, from Clerks on, who have not become disenchanted with him, right? And that's essentially who he's making these movies for at this point. It's not for anyone else. If you didn't like anything he's done in the last 5 years, you're not going to like this, I think, period. If you feel like Kevin Smith has fallen off, you may like this. I don't know. I there's the reviews are mixed, but I it's one of those things where, like, again, the audience is so narrow with it, and it's because he's created this like insular universe where everything in Clerks 3 feels like a joke that has been done, or a version of something that has been done before. And it's not like cute, subtle winks and nods and references. There are parts of this movie where they just redo Clerks, or they just like reference stories from Clerks, not even in a funny way, just sort of like a referential way, talking about things. And so the audience is like, oh, I remember that. And then like that's how you're supposed to like, act throughout the entirety of the movie. So like the scope feels so narrow, and it just feels so lazy in this movie to just be retreading this ground. And again, like I said, it's not done in any new ways. It's not like going to see a band play like a new arrangement of a song you love. It's the same fucking note for note thing you heard 25 years ago. And it just drove me a little nuts that that's what he was it's entirely based on that. I think the setup of the movie is fine. I think that this idea that that Kevin Smith is sort of like coping with and dealing with his brush with death. And look, the other complaint I had about Kevin Smith stuff is that it's maudlin. And look, he's going through something where he almost died, and he's coped with that and made a love letter to his daughter with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and now kind of like exploring his career and his like mortality and stuff with this one. I get it. It's fine. It's just maudlin as shit, which we'll get to in a minute. But back to what I was saying, I like this idea that, Randall has a heart attack and he has a brush with death, and then it makes him realize that he hasn't done anything with his life, and he decides that he wants to make a movie based on their life and experience. Whatever, fine. That's fine. The middle act of the movie where they remake Clerks, could not stand it. I became very, very annoyed by it. Now throughout this, you have these like scenes and moments of Dante and Randall dealing with their friendship, and then I'm going to spoil a couple of things here.
Okay.
There's a character from the previous movie who has died, and I actually
it's in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
So Rosario Dawson's character Becky from Clerks 2, it's revealed that she died during childbirth, right? And
no, it was a car accident. She was pregnant.
Both the baby and her died. That's right. It's been a month. And so this actually gives Brian O'Halloran like the best like acting meet of the entire movie, and I think he's really great. I think Brian O'Halloran is like the MVP by far of this movie. He's really acting his ass off given the circumstances. And then it gets to the third act where something happens that, not to spoil anything, it's another retread, by the way. If we're coming to this theme of like Kevin Smith retreading, he retreads himself in his own movie, which is interesting.
Which part? I'm confused as to what you're talking about now.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because I'm struggling to think about what it was what it is that's a retread. Oh, what's that a retread of? This is fascinating for listeners and viewers, but okay. I would call that more of a callback, but sure.
Okay, well, sure.
Okay,
yeah. A strange coincidence.
Well, okay.
And it's in this moment where Kevin Smith hits peak maudlin in a scene that unfolds where I literally to my TV out loud with no one around me said "fuck you," and it was where I just kind of like pull the plug, and it was in that moment that I realized I think I might be done with Kevin Smith. If he has a movie that's like easily accessible and I can watch it at home or whatever, but like we know that now after this past week that Tusk 2 is on the way, and I'm just like I can't do it anymore. I can't. I can't do it.
You know how many times a part 2 of something from his has been on the way? Mm-hmm. I mean, like Mallrats 2 was apparently in the can. I mean, if you believe any of this shit, was like ready to go.
Yeah.
But
so anyway, let me just wrap this up. So again, for me, it is the type of filmmaking where one, it's made for like the group of people who have been like View Askew Universe fans since the beginning, and it's all fan service. That's all this is. It's just one big pot of fan service,
right?
With all the cameos that you would expect, all of these references. But like I said, I just think that it's really, really lazy filmmaking to not make something more clever out of referencing this stuff. And it's just so like straightforward retreading that and by the way too, this movie is ostensibly a love letter to filmmaking. Mm-hmm. Something he already did in Zack and Miri Make a Porno. If you swap porno with independent film, you got the same thing.
No, I know.
Same thing.
And that's if I had to my biggest complaint is that like this story has already been told. The story about like this ragtag group of people coming together to make a movie. He already did it. And I like Zach and Miri fine.
I like it a lot.
Maybe I haven't revisited it in a while. At the time, it felt a little like it was aping Apatow style, and I'm probably in no small part due to Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks being the stars. But I thought that had some good elements. Like I like Jeff Anderson a lot in that movie in a smaller role. I think that was his last movie before Clerks 3, whenever Zach and Miri came out. That said, after having suffered through, I don't remember shit about Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, other than it looked ugly as hell. And that's another thing that's really been disheartening with this, because Kevin Smith still gets directing gigs. Like he's directed a bunch of CW stuff, like just as director for hire. I don't know why or how his personal style fell off so much, other than just not giving one single shit about anything anymore. I don't even know, because the last time we talked, he was doing podcasts like daily. I haven't followed along. Is he still doing that?
Oh, I don't know if he's doing it daily anymore, because Smodcast used to be a daily thing, and I think Smodcast stopped, if I'm not mistaken, and now he does like, I don't know. I mean, I have not paid attention. I never was a Smodcast.
I tried listening a few times, and it was I love hearing him talk, and I think he's a great, like, it's weird because he seems like an otherwise like really great entertainer, like in storytelling, like storytelling wise. Like some of the biggest laughs I've ever had are listening to him do commentaries on his old movies.
Oh yeah.
Like the Jersey Girl, Take It or Leave It. I probably talked about this before. The commentary with him and Ben Affleck is fucking gold. Like it's some of the funniest shit I've ever listened to. And maybe 20 years later I might be a little different. But goddamn, he sucks now at putting together a cohesive story that, like, the maudlin stuff I get. And I'm going to be honest, the third act of this movie is what I liked the best, because I think it finds a little bit of a nugget of a story that it should have been the entire time, is like the stress of this lifelong friendship.
Sure.
And the idea that Dante has been going through this terrible mourning, and all he's had to do, and this is like, if you want to even harken back to, it's non-canon, the Clerks cartoon, just like being put upon by not just the world, but by Randall.
Yeah.
And their friendship with Randall.
Look,
and
I mean, he oh, I'm sorry, continue.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, that is the best part of the movie, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like the maudlin stuff that follows. I'm talking about the lead up to that, where it is about not only the stress of like carrying Randall for 50 years, but also how Randall has been oblivious to Dante's grief. Like, that's really interesting stuff, and it's the best part of the movie. And like I said, when you're talking about Brian O'Halloran acting his ass off in the peak climax scene, he's great. And to your point, I wish there was more of that, because that's the movie. I don't need to see fucking Clerks get shot for shot remake. Why do I need that?
Right, and that's to take it or leave it. There's some funny stuff in that here and there. Like the scene where they all have to leave so Jay can do his shit. That was funny to me. I actually really like Jay and Silent Bob in this movie. I think they have some really funny lines. Remaking Clerks, that takes up a lot of the movie, and we've seen it already. The beginning of the movie, I don't mind the setup. It's full of stupid shit. As soon as Justin Long appears talking funny, I'm like, fuck me, man. This is gonna be terrible. But then Amy Sedaris comes in and just anchors that shit, but she has to deliver this long scene as though she doesn't know anything about the Mandalorian. which you're like, haha, I get it. She's in the show, and Randall's telling her about the Mandalorian. Ha ha ha, I get it. Fuck, man, stop. But once it gets, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it also sells, I think, Elias really short too as a character, which was a really great breakout character of Clerks 2, and then he's just stuck in this like fucking cryptocurrency Satanist storyline.
The cryptocurrency stuff is stupid. That's dumb. That was clearly made when it was at the height. It's clear the movie was made when this was at the height of the public consciousness. I do like that he's like broken to this like crazy Satanism thing. I thought that was fun because that was a character I was like, man, I don't want to see this again because it was too stupid. You know, it settled, like I said, it settles down a little bit after that first act and then just kind of goes through the motions of remaking Clerks. And it feels like not everybody could be on set at the same time because you got a lot of reverse shots that don't feature like every time Randall and Dante are talking like across the counter, I'm like, well, clearly they couldn't be there at the same time. But yeah, then it gets to that third act and you're like, oh shit, this is what it should have been about. Because the first movie is, you know, there's the big comeuppance, or the big, not comeuppance, but climax at the end where Randall blames, like Dante's trying to blame the world for his problems and Randall calls him out on it. Then this is kind of the reverse of that a little bit. That Randall's been kind of the one who's been bitching this whole time about how terrible his life is, and Dante's going through some real shit. And like, holy shit, this thing found a nugget of like what it would be like to be in this close of its proximity to your lifelong friend for this fucking long, who's ignoring your grief. And again, like you said, that's exactly what this movie should have been. And that
like 5 minutes on it.
Yeah. And then, but it finally finds it. And I'm like, fuck. He finally found what this movie should have been about the entire time. And I think it ends like there's a bunch of maudlin shit at the end. I think there's some funny, like genuine comedy stuff at the end. That I forgave the everything else that I didn't like about the movie. I didn't hate the movie. This isn't a Yoga Hoser situation. This isn't a Tusk situation. This isn't a Jay and Silent Bob reboot situation where I was indifferent to it. I actually ended up liking this movie more than I didn't like it. It is Die Hard. It is for the Die Hard fans. Like, you know, you get cameos that you expect, like Ben Affleck showing up for, you know, five seconds here and there. All of the Impractical Jokers for some reason. Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. The woman who played Supergirl, and then somebody else from one of the CW shows. I don't know who. Fred Armisen for some reason. Yeah, I mean, look, is it good? Is it a return to form? Absolutely not. But is it one of the best movies he's made in the past 5 years? I guess, yeah, by default, sure.
Ringing endorsement.
But I think it has some genuine moments in it that most of these other ones didn't have.
Yeah.
But by the way, I want to look just to remind you. So we did cover Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and can you care to guess? Just venture a guess to the other two movies we covered on that show.
Oh, I actually remember because I remember seeing it at the movie theater. So was it Chapter 2?
No. It's two movies both you and I really loved.
Oh. Oh well. Mass?
No. So here it's you're thinking way too soon.
Oh, okay.
That show, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Parasite, and Dr. Sleep.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Dr. Sleep. Fuck, that was it. Because I remember I was at a theater, and after a screening, I went to go watch Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
I think I did too. I believe I did too. Because it was 2019. Because I remember Rise of Skywalker was playing, and I stole some posters from the lobby to try to sell them because I fucking hated that movie. But,
yeah, no, that's right. Because I remember I saw the Dr. Sleep screening and then went right into Reboot.
Yeah.
What a double feature that we both did.
I mean, I was coming off the high of really loving Dr. Sleep. And then, anyway, so just going back to my point, like, it does feel like at the very end of this all, it kind of wrapped up the story for me in a satisfying way. I don't think all the steps along the way were there, but I feel like, as someone who would call myself having grown up from my teenage years to now on Kevin Smith movies and absolutely loving those first three and really liking Dogma, and really seeing like with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, like I think I sent you, did I send you the Good Will Hunting scene?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, fuck, man, that's like a really well put together scene. Whatever you think of that movie, I think ultimately that movie doesn't work as well as it should. But goddamn, that Good Will Hunting sequel scene is so funny, and so well done, and looks gorgeous. It's just like it's so baffling to me that he can't or is unwilling to even try that hard anymore.
Yeah,
because clearly he's still able to make movies, but he cannot put together a low budget movie.
Well, when you say try that hard, that's why I consider his filmmaking to be, especially with these last two movies, very, very lazy.
Yeah,
and it's all low hanging fruit. It is the lowest of the low hanging fruit. It's all fan service. It's easy to do, and then again, you slip into a nugget of something that's actually interesting, and you spend maybe 5 minutes on it.
Yeah, and it seems to have been found by accident.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because it's all dumb fucking jokes. It's fine. I don't know that we can... Clerks 2 kind of got away from the idea that it was these two guys. I was assumed they were 20s, like early 20s, because it was they were supposed to be in college. Like Dante was supposed to go back to school, blah, blah, blah.
I think Clerks 2 introduces this idea of like Randall feeling like their friendship is threatened by Dante being in a relationship.
Yeah.
And potentially moving, right? That's the whole thing, is that he's going
to move to Florida. Yeah.
And so Randall is like, actively fighting against losing his friend. But yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, what is your grade for Clerks 3?
So I mentioned that there's the visceral anger end of the Kevin Smith spectrum, and it got me there. It's just the third act, again, the maudlin piece of it, I just hated so much, and I hated the circumstances in which it got you there. I think that there are pockets of goodness, especially with Brian O'Halloran. God bless him, he's doing really great work here. But again, it's this really lazy insular world where, and again, if he's just gonna content to like make self-referential movies for his fans from now until the end of time, that's fine. But I'm tapping out.
I feel like you might have said that before. You might have said that after.
I might have, but now not even the Askew universe can pull me back in. So.
I would hope it's done.
I think it probably is.
I would hope so.
Although, again, the Mallrats 2 is always a threat. What was it? Mallbrats?
Mallbrats, yeah. It's supposed to be about their kids, I think. Well, I think everybody was on board at one point.
Yeah.
Even Shannon Doherty, who I assume is maybe doing better. She had cancer, yeah. I know. Yeah. Anyway,
but yeah, grade C-.
C-. Wow. I'm gonna go with a B- because man, this thing, for all its faults, for all of its dumb shit, it finally hits on that thing at the end where it gave me a good feeling wrapping it up. It gave me it didn't give me the send off I would have wanted for these characters all these years ago. But I think it gave me more than I was ever expecting based on the shit that's been pumped out by Kevin Smith. Also, can I just say, God bless Kevin Smith for sticking with Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson through all these years, despite their obvious shortcomings.
Yeah.
Look, you say Brian O'Halloran is doing good work here. He's doing pretty good. I think he's doing as best as he can. Jeff Anderson has always been better to me. I didn't care for him in this movie. I feel like he may be a little too rusty. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about the end that got me, even past the maudlin shit.
Yeah.
At any rate, this movie is going to be, like we said at the beginning, released in theaters, I think at least once per day through Fathom Events. And then Kevin Smith is taking it on a tour where he'll be in attendance, which is something I would like to see. Just because, like I said, I think he's a good speaker publicly.
And get your $30 movies.
I did do the movies last year.
They reviewed movies on Doughboys, and it's a great episode. You should listen to
it was not. I mean, it was nothing special. You could get a lot of autographed merch though, if that's your thing. I did get an autographed Kevin Smith poster, and I got a T-shirt. So,
Nice.
Anyway, that's gonna do it for this week. Next week, Cody, we got a busy week if we choose to cover everything.
Yeah, so we'll see what we end up doing. I think at minimum we'll be covering Confess Fletch.
Also, a former Kevin Smith project that never came to fruition. A Fletch movie that was at one point going to star Jason Lee, and then at some point Ben Affleck. So
I would have loved to see Jason Lee as Fletch. I think that would have really worked. But
yeah, that and man, that would have been the time for it, because I feel like this movie, like seeing the trailer, I'm like, oh yeah, John Hamm and
John
Slattery.
Yeah, getting Jason Lee on the My Name Is Earl come up would have been pretty nice.
He seems to have dropped off the face of the earth and content to just do photography now.
Yeah,
like
I haven't seen him in anything since Reboot. He was in Reboot, right?
Yeah. But I mean, he was I mean, My Name Is Earl was huge.
Yeah.
For a while. Anyway, yeah, he was supposed to do a movie called Fletch 1, which was one of the novels. This is a different novel, but that would have been the time to do it, because like I feel like this movie is a relic of that era from seeing the trailer. But because I think it's coming out in theaters and on demand, or only on demand.
It's both.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've got some other stuff that we can cover or not cover. The Woman King opens next week, which has some decent buzz around it. There's See How They Run, which is like a whodunit that's coming out with like Sam Rockwell and a couple other people. So we'll see. I think we're both kind of morbidly curious about Confess Fletch, because it has like one of the worst trailers I've ever seen. Like if you watch that trailer, like something is super off about it. Like the comedic timing doesn't work at all. It just seems like it's either like a really, really poorly cut together trailer, or this movie's going to be very, very bad.
Yeah, and it's from director Greg Mottola, who did Superbad, and then I think
Adventureland. I love Adventureland.
What was his most recent movie? Looks like Paul was his most. And Clear. He did that Clear History TV movie that I never saw. I heard was really bad. But he did Paul, Adventureland, and Superbad all back to back.
That's a good trio. That's a good run. Paul's not the best, but
I like Paul fine. He did. He directed some episodes of The Newsroom. He did Keeping Up with the Joneses. Man, so he's been all over John Hamm in the last decade. And then he did some episodes of Dave, a show I've never watched, but I've heard great things about.
Same.
Anyway, all right. If you want to reach us, you can email us at podcast@cinesnob.net. Find us on Twitter @cinesnob, Facebook cinesnobnet, youtube.com/cinesnob. Cody, are you still doing the ramble? That's happening.
Yeah, I've been out recently with a variety of ailments, but it's still around. Ramble radio on Tuesdays and Fridays, regular Ramble on Wednesdays.
That inverted penis thing, I know. Kept you out.
Oh yes, I had to re-invert it.
To extrovert it? I don't know how you say that. Concave it? I haven't gotten that yet. Really? Damn it. I don't know. I have a box I haven't opened. Oh, that's probably what's in that box. Is that your first Pop vinyl?
My Funko Pop?
Yeah, Funko Pop. That's what I should say.
No, I have all of the. I have a bunch of Ghost of Funkos.
Oh, that's right. I forget.
This is my first giant one. I don't know what to do with it.
Well, it's the normal size Pop, but it's got that big cover.
Yeah, it's got like a full size magazine cover, and it's in a display case too.
Oh, nice. So you could actually take it out of the box if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch around here. I'm reorganizing this mess, but some of the favorite weird ones I have are Dale Doback and Brennan Huff, the Step Brothers.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I tried
Uh-huh.
to watch Step Brothers on True TV the other day. We was watching an Impractical Jokers rerun, and it's censored to hell and it's unwatchable.
Oh, I mean, I don't even bother with that anymore. It's, like there's some stations like FX will basically air a full movie unedited, or like Comedy Central sometimes. But like if you're watching just like one of those like really lax channels, it's unwatchable. I mean, it's just it cut, and it not only because like it's not just losing cursing, but you're losing the joke in almost all of it.
Yeah, well, like it's. I was like, because my wife has never seen Step Brothers, which I know is something that I have to remedy. I was like, oh, let's watch it because it was just on, and like I had to turn it off because it was just too hacked to shit. And it's funny because like True TV, like the Impractical Jokers will say shit and ass and like asshole, but then they cut it out of this movie. It's so weird. Anyway, all right. Anything else before we go, Cody?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. On that note, I am Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafana.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit cinesnob.net. See you next week.